All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Roundtable 109. And got the Three Musketeers tonight, man. A little bit of a smaller panel. As always, we got D-Style Boxing, and we got Dakota from the Slip and Weave podcast, an old alumni of D-Style and myself. He was one of our partners back in the day, I think it was 2009 on Rope Dope Radio. We reconnected with him, and it's great to have him on. And let's just jump right into it. Dillian Whyte this weekend took on Jermaine Franklin in a fight that he was heavily favored and he was expected to win handily, but he did anything but that. I had the fight a draw. He squeaked by. I thought it could have gone either way. It could have been a draw. Start with you, Dakota. What did you think of Dillian Whyte's performance? And do you think he's still a top level heavyweight? Can he ever be champion?
I mean, to be brutally honest, I felt like he looked pretty slow, and he's never been like a speed demon, but I definitely felt like he's slowed down a couple of paces. Everything when he throws it, it looks really forced, and it felt like a lot of the time Franklin could kind of time what he was doing. I thought Franklin won close. I had it 7-5, wouldn't have had a problem with a draw. I definitely don't think Whyte won 8-4, and I thought that, some of it's a credit to Franklin, right? He's got quick hands, but I don't know, man. I personally thought Whyte just looked a couple steps slower than he always has.
Yeah. D-Star, what'd you think of Dan Whyte's performance? And, can he beat Joshua if that's the next guy?
Well, look. Here's the thing with I never been high on Dillian Whyte. I know a lot of our friends across the pond have always been high on Dillian Whyte for some reason, right? Oh, Fury's going to struggle with him because you just don't know how good he is, like or whatever. Look, I trust my eye test when I have enough data. I've been watching this guy for years, right? This is not just one fight, two fights that I've seen. I've seen him struggle in fights where he's just frankly been overvalued, and I think it's time that people come to a realization that many have overvalued him as a fighter. It doesn't mean he sucks. It doesn't mean, he's a terrible fighter. It just means he's not quite what you think he is. So whenever a dude's best thing, like when his best moment is, but he hurt Joshua in the fight. Yeah. When that's your big claim to fame, that you hurt somebody in the middle of a fight, that's not a good thing. Like your claim to fame should be, who did you beat? Who did you ultimately defeat in a fight? And Dillian Whyte has a lot of, debatable, disputed decision wins that you could argue for him or not argue for him, and this is another one. And I don't know. I don't know if it was more us overestimating Whyte or underestimating his opponent, but Whyte didn't look that good. His marriage with Buddy McGirt, I guess, needs a couple more fights, but he's up there in age. I don't know what time's out on their side, that hourglass is running out. And I think it's only a matter of time before they feed him to somebody. And in my opinion, that's going to be Anthony Joshua. I'm sorry. I don't think he goes the distance with Joshua. I think Joshua knocks him out. And it'll be a nice confidence booster for Joshua. And that's what he's been reduced to.
Yeah. I want to switch gears and talk about Shakur Stevenson because this guy's been trying to get a big fight at lightweight. He's been calling everybody out, and he's having a hard time. He wanted to fight Isaac Cruz, and apparently Isaac Cruz turned it down. I guess the reason was they believe that Shakur Stevenson's not exciting enough, but we all know the story behind that one. But an offer's been set to William Zepada. This guy is like he's like a whirling dervish in there. This guy is a punch machine. The volume this guy can put out there is incredible. What did he throw, like 1,100 or 1,200 punches in his last fight?
Broke the record, yeah.
Yeah. So apparently, according to Shakur Stevenson, he tweeted this out that they sent an offer over to William Zepada, and they're just waiting to hear back. Do you guys think that this fight could happen, and how do you think Zepeda would do against Shakur Stevenson? You think he would hang in there? You think he can make a good account of himself? Start with you, D-Style.
Man, where do I start with this one? Now, first of all, Zepeda was averaging 128 punches per round in this fight. Okay, with with Jojo Diaz, right? Like that's something. And Jojo was firing back too. That's something people need to understand. I actually think this would be a good fight. Like I'm not ready to say who I think would win right now. I guess I'm leaning Shakur, but I think Zepeda has a style, right, where he's going to bring a lot of volume, and I could see it being one of those fights where people debate quality versus quantity, right? Some people are gonna say, but he outworked them. But Shakur landed the better punches. I think it'll be one of those fights, to be honest. Now, if Shakur at 135 can, and I believe this will be the case, he'll be able to sit on his punches better. He'll have more pop at this weight because it's a healthier weight class for him. He will be, draining himself down to make the weight. If he has a better pop, then he would be able to slow down Zepeda and at the very least cut down the amount of volume Zepeda is throwing. That's for sure. Because a lot of guys had a lot of volume, fought Mayweather, and all of a sudden the volume would drop dramatically, right? We saw Manny Pacquiao would throw 100 punches around, but then when he was in there with a counter puncher like a Marquez, like a Mayweather, like someone who could, pop him with the right hand as a counter, it was just different, right? So what I'll say is I think it'll be a close fight. I think it's an intriguing fight. And Zepeda is a very humble dude. I've seen a lot of interviews of his, and he's done them in Spanish. And this is not someone, he doesn't have a big head. He's not overinflating his ego. He doesn't think too much of himself, like overvaluing himself. He understands his position. He understands he's a contender. He's just asking for these opportunities, and this is one of them, right? So someone like that is actually dangerous because he's not delusional, right? This is someone who's going to acknowledge that Shakur Stevenson is who he is. Will acknowledge Shakur Stevenson is the special fighter he is, and he'll come with a game plan, and he'll come locked and ready, locked and loaded. So I think it's a good fight.
I think it's a good fight too. Dakota, how do you think Zepeda matches up with Shakur? Do you think the fight does have the potential to happen?
I don't see why not. I mean, Shakur is looking for a legit test at 135. I don't think he wants anybody soft, but I think he's looking outside of the top 3 or 4 guys, maybe to the bottom half of the top 10. I think Zepeda has like a volume punching style that I don't know that Shakur has really been in with, and he does it pretty clean. So, I mean, I guess his best hope is to try to make it look kind of like a Stephen Fulton against Brandon Figueroa or a Mayweather Maidana, and try to rough it up and take away some of the clean boxing that Stevenson's able to do when he keeps his distance. I like this matchup. This is a good one.
Yeah. And it's funny because the knock on Stevenson was he had that amateur style. He wasn't sitting down on his shots, but when he went from 126 to 130, he started sitting down. He started becoming more of a puncher. So I'm curious to see if he moves up again, will he continue to, carry that power up? Because, like I said, as he's moved up, he's shown to be a little bit more of a heavy hitter, and he's more aggressive. And I think he's added some wrinkles to his game a little bit. And I think that maybe he listened to the criticism, and he's not going to totally reinvent himself and turn into like a Marcos Maidana or something like that. But I think he's making a concerted effort to, be a more dangerous puncher and add some of the inside game to his arsenal as well, because he fights in the pocket now too. So I think he's making that effort to kind of show some versatility in there and not just be like the stick and move type guy that he was in the amateurs and even at 126 for a large portion of his career down there. So yeah, I think this fight would be very interesting at 135. Go ahead, D-Style.
Yeah, I just wanted to add because I forgot to answer as far as do I believe the fight has. I think it has an excellent chance at happening. Just to give some examples, Hoy Gonzalez was loaned by Golden Boy to Top Rank to go do fights over there. Several of them. I don't know if Hoyt's still with Golden Boy, but Joshua Franco was again a Golden Boy fighter. He was loaned out to Top Rank to go do fights over there with Maloney, for example. Zepeda, he's just in a position where he's not that. he has the potential to be, but right now he's not that big mega. He's not their Ryan Garcia. Like, you know what I mean? He's not that like their Virgil Ortiz. He's someone that I think they'll be more inclined to kind of loan out and let him go out there to do his thing. No different than like the way PBC was willing to loan out Castaño to fight Teixeira on his own, or Andy Ruiz to go over there to fight Joshua. I think for Golden Boy, it's like, okay, well, if they offer a Shakur fight, that's probably going to give Zepeda a big payday. It doesn't come out of our bank. And if he does happen to beat Shakur, I mean, shit, you know what I mean? Like that's a big win, and you could start promoting him on his own. So they have nothing to lose by letting him go over there. You know what I mean? He's not going to be He's not going to be the favorite to win. You know, and in reality, he doesn't even have to win that fight. He just has to go out there and give Shakur a hell of a fight, and that's a win for him. You know, so yeah.
How old is he? Was he like 25, 26? He's not that old, right?
He's not that old, but he looks old. Man.
Yeah.
I think he ages by the punch.
Shakur is kind of young too. So yeah. I mean, these guys are you know, they're young guys. They got a long career ahead of them. So even
young,
if,
unbeaten guys that are taking a risk before a lot of guys would.
Yeah. And they have the mentality. These guys, like they have that mentality where they're not looking for soft touches. And I think because of the mentality of both guys, I think the likelihood of the fight happening is pretty high.
High. Look, Zepeda is a guy. I mean, again, I'm talking about the interviews I've heard. He talks highly about all the fight. He doesn't talk shit about any fighters. A man is just happy to be there. Like, yo, I'm just here. I'm gonna try my best. Is a dangerous man. Okay.
Yeah.
He's a dangerous dude out there.
All right, let's talk about this never-ending soap opera that seems to be going on, and it's really been aired out, particularly on Twitter. And this is Tank Davis and Mayweather Promotions, Floyd Mayweather, Leonard Allaby. You know, Tank's tweeting out things, and he's deleting the tweets. So I'm kind of getting the sense that maybe someone's grabbing a hold of him and telling him, hey, you got to take that down. You know, like those guys over at PBC, I feel like Al Heyman's got his hand up the back of their shirt, and he's kind of like telling them what to do and say a lot of times. And I don't think they have a grasp on their career. I don't think they're in full control over there. But this thing just seems to be going on and on. And Tank tweeted out recently that he asked for his separation papers from Mayweather Promotions. Like, do you need separation papers from a company? Like, you know,
what's his divorce?
When I leave a job, I don't ask my company, hey man,
what's alimony?
I'm not leaving the door until you give me my separation papers. I want them, or I'm taking you guys to court. Just give me 2 weeks and you leave, right? So what's going on? I mean, is Tank really done with Mayweather Promotions? And is he ever going to work with them again? We'll start with you, Dakota. What's going on with Tank, man?
Well, so funny thing about me is I've never had a Twitter account, so I don't really know that much about their relationship. But what I do know is that over the course of Tank's career, there's a lot of good fights I'm sure that he would have liked to have been in that haven't been made, and I think that some of that is Mayweather's strategic matchmaking for him. And I would imagine that for somebody that competitive, that would not be satisfactory.
Yeah, I got you. Lee, what's happening, brother? Welcome.
Well, you know, I was just here minding my own business, went into the chat room, offered a few comments, and then all of a sudden D-Style here gives me an invitation. I said, okay, why not?
You're like Kevin McHale. You're the sixth man coming off the bench.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I kind of prefer that. You know, I'm sort of a behind the scenes kind of guy, and if I'm called upon, I'll answer. So here I am.
Got you. What do you think of this Tank Mayweather Promotions soap opera? And are these guys really done?
I don't know. I think one of the things that I've often been saying to myself and also saying on Twitter is until I see a press conference, wake me up. Wake me up then. Wait until the official announcement comes down. Wait until something official is said. Otherwise, it's just rumor. It's just soap opera. And we'll see what happens. A lot of people say that it would be a good thing for Tank if he got out of the Mayweather umbrella. And if Tank really wants to take risks with his opponent, probably the best way to make that happen. But of course, there's the court date that's going to come early next year. That still remains to be seen. If we can get past that, then we got the fight on January 7th. Then we got, hopefully, Brian Garcia in April or somewhere else in 2023. We'll see what happens.
Gotcha. D, what's going on with the soap opera here?
Look, all I can say is this. First of all, I know you mentioned somebody must be telling Tank, hey, I think Tank, he doesn't think through what he's about to say or tweet. He just, whatever comes to mind, he says it, right? And then I think, time passes by, then he's like, maybe I shouldn't have done this, and then he deletes it. The problem with social media and the internet, whatever you post is forever. All of it. You know what I mean? If a naked picture of you is out there on the internet, it's there forever. Now, you could delete it all you want. It's there forever, all right? If you tweet something, the tweet exists forever, all right? I don't think, and it's amazing to me how Tank hasn't grasped that yet. You know what I mean? Like, that hasn't processed yet in his head, that whatever you say has consequence, right? Now, I'll be honest, like the stuff he's saying, everyone always accurately predicts when it's going to get deleted. Every time. Oh, I'm here. Well, that's a common, statement made under his tweets. Oh, I'm just here before he deletes a tweet, or I got the screenshot already. Like, people let him know all the time. Tank Davis is a very confused individual. I don't think he knows what the fuck's going on. Okay. I think he is confused. I think he is angry. Somebody asked him, hey, why hasn't Mayweather announced your fight? Oh, because they were hating on me. Leonard Allerby he was rooting for Rolly Romero. I don't know how true all this stuff is, but in his mind, all these things are true. And to me, that kind of, I don't know. I just think he doesn't trust Mayweather. He doesn't trust Allerby. I don't know who he trusts, to be honest with you, but this is someone who is angry with his current promotion. I would venture to say that it's likely that they're not going to last. Okay. The charges he's in for, hit and run, are very serious charges. I don't know the details behind it all. I've just read a little bit of it. And the judge may not give a shit that us boxing fans want to see the Tank fight. The judge may just lay the hammer down, and it is what it is, right? One case where I saw a judge kind of make an exception was, if you guys remember, when Mayweather went to court before the Cotto fight, and they basically told him, the judge basically said, this fight's going to be big for the Las Vegas economy, so we're going to let the fight happen, but after the fight, you're going to jail, right? And that was Mayweather. So what is the judge going to do to Tank, all right? Are they going to allow Tank to go fight? The judge may say, who the fuck is this dude you're fighting? Ryan Garcia, I don't give a shit, right? All I know, to answer your question, Beeb, I have no clue what the fuck. Tank doesn't know what the hell he's going to do. Like, Tank doesn't know what he's going to do in the next hour. The dude can't even decide whether or not he should tweet some, and then he deletes it an hour later. So we don't know what the hell's going on with Tank. But I will say, though, whenever he goes rogue and he's anti-Mayweather, anti-Allerby, I tend to like that Tank better anyway. He's more vocal. He talks more shit. Okay, he gets right on fight. He talks shit about the fighters. He tells them, I'm going to knock you out. I want to fight you, and da-da-da. Well, it's when he's kind of in the good side with Mayweather, where he allows Mayweather to do the talking, that we don't really hear him talk about all the fights. We don't hear him call fighters out and stuff like that. So a free Tank is a more outspoken Tank, which I like better.
I'm going to tell you something that I saw from Tank, and a lot of his press conferences, post-fight press conferences, and even pre-fight press conferences. He'll be sitting next to Mayweather, and someone will be asking him a question, and he'll look over to Mayweather like, how do I answer that? In other words, it just seems like when you allow someone to have that much control over you, you can't get mad when things don't go your way, because you did it to yourself. You know, obviously you got to work with your promoter, you got to work with your managers and stuff like that. But you got to be the boss too. And I don't think the fighters are the bosses over there. I think they're told what to do, what to say. From what I hear over at PBC, they have like a non-defamation clause in their contracts where they can't say anything derogatory about Al Heyman or even the network that, you know, Showtime or Fox, whoever's, you know, putting on the fight or whatever. They can't say anything negative. But I just found that very startling. Like someone would be asking him a question, and he just looks over at Mayweather, like, how do I answer that? You know what I mean? It's just crazy. So I don't know. After a while, when you're controlled like that for so long, you can't feel nothing other than resentment because you're not your own person. And when you're not your own person, that's not a good feeling, especially when you're 28 years old. He's not a kid anymore. You know what I mean? So at this point, he's got to stand up for himself and he's got to stop making decisions. He's got to take control of his career, kind of like what Terrence Crawford's doing right now.
You know, well, what's the most valuable thing to a boxer other than his peace of mind, obviously, but his fist, right?
Yeah.
And so something very sacred to a boxer is his glove selection, the gloves that they're going to wear when they go to combat to fight another grown-ass man in the ring, right? Tank Davis wanted to wear the no boxing, no life gloves. Those are the gloves he liked. And they were from a fighter he's very fond of. Him and Canelo have a mutual respect for one another, right? And because Canelo said, oh, I want to wish Isaac Cruz the best. Like Mayweather told Tank, you're not going to wear the gloves. Like, you know, he ended up like not wearing them, but like, and the gloves didn't match the trunks, what tells you he had no intentions at all. He didn't have no extra pair of gloves just in case. He wanted to wear that pair of gloves. He had them specifically made so he could wear them, right? And any fighter will tell you they go through a lot through the process when they make a glove selection, right? And that's just one microcosm of everything, of the amount of control that Mayweather had over Tank. And I think, yeah, you're right. I agree with you 100%. Eventually, resentment comes out. Eventually, someone's going to go rogue when they feel too controlled.
And it's also kind of like a PBC thing, too, because when Terrence Crawford was talking about negotiating with Al Heyman, he asked Al Heyman, he said, yeah, can myself and Errol Spence and you sit down and we can try to like bang out this deal? And he's like, absolutely not. That will never happen. It's like Errol Spence can't even be in the room. The fighters can't even be in the room when they're negotiating. It's crazy. It's crazy. So we'll see what happens, man.
I think there's a real irony to that too, where, you know, Floyd kind of got to where he's at by promoting fights himself and being very outspoken and letting his personality shine through. And yet, as like a promoter himself, he's like repressing the fighters.
Yeah. And what Floyd did was genius, because when he got his promotional license, you know, he worked out his deal with Showtime. He took out the middleman, right? He's paying himself, right? So I don't know.
He knows he can't make money off Tank if Tank does the same thing.
Yes,
right? So.
Yes, and it's almost like these fighters have to adopt the beefs of their promoters. In other words, so this promoter doesn't like that promoter. So instead of giving the fighter the best possible chance to make the most amount of money, we don't care about that. Fuck that guy. He made a statement like, we're not here to make another promoter rich. Of course you're not. You're there to make your fighter rich. You know what I'm saying? You're already rich, right? So you're there to make your fighter rich. And that's one good thing you got to give Eddie Hearn credit for, because when he was working with Canelo and Canelo needed to get that undisputed fight, and he knew that PBC was never going to let Plant come over to the zone, what did he say? Go over there and do what you got to do. Go ahead, D-Star. You want to say?
Yeah, and people want to blame. They come with the conclusion it's all Crawford's fault, by the way, when a PBC fighter wouldn't fight Canelo on the zone. Like, just think about that for a second, okay? But I just wanted to make this one last point, and this goes again to why your actions always have an opposite reaction of some sort. Things you say will always come back, and people listen real careful to everything you say, right? Mayweather, one time I remember him and Pacquiao, mainly him, was having beef with Pacquiao, right? And he went on a rant about how, oh, I was your boss. I was supervising you in a Thurman fight. Okay. Like just, he was being very condescending towards Pacquiao because his name was on the banner of that fight, saying, I was your supervisor. I was your boss. And you don't think fighters hear stuff like that? And if you're a fighter, why would you want to work alongside somebody like that talks to, he's going to talk to Pacquiao that way? How do you think he's going to talk to you? Like a day's going to come, right, where he's going to talk to you like you're nothing. So I think Mayweather's made a lot of mistakes as a promoter along the way, in my opinion. I think he's benefited off the fact that we all know Al Heyman's, I call him a shadow promoter, and he has his little puppet promoters around, and Mayweather Promotions is one of them. I think everybody knows that. It's whatever, right? And I think Mayweather Promotions has benefited off of that, to be honest. That's the only reason his name, it wasn't because Pacquiao had to sign to Mayweather Promotions. Pacquiao's, he was fighting for PBC, right? But I don't think there's a future for Mayweather Promotions, bro. That's basically what I wanted to say.
Yeah. And it's like
before you close
ahead,
out the subject, D-Style asked a couple of minutes ago if there was some sort of precedent about a judge allowing a fighter to take a fight and then go to serve his sentence. And I immediately thought of Adrian Broner back in 2016. He was the WBA 140-pound champ at the time, and he was supposed to fight Ashley Theophane in Washington, D.C. And Adrian Broner, I guess, had been on probation for a reckless driving case from the previous year. And he violated that probation. He had been sentenced to, he had been sentenced for that. But then he broke the probation, and despite the charges, Broner was permitted to take the Theophane fight in Washington, D.C. on the condition that he turned himself in upon his return to Ohio. He ended up missing weight, so he ended up giving up the title. He didn't fight very well in the fight, but he did end up stopping Theophane in round 9. And then I guess on April 10th, he did return to Ohio, and he did serve the jail term. So who knows? There may be some precedent that could allow Tank to fight in April if he is convicted, but these are a lot more serious charges. There are 14 of them, a maximum possible sentence of 4 years, although some reports in Maryland suggest that he could serve 1 year in prison. Who knows? It's really up to the judge's hands right now as to what happens to Tank.
Yeah, and this common theme over there that everyone has to, like, I'm my own boss type thing. I mean, it's no one's really 100% their own boss. Like, even you could be the biggest, richest guy in the world. Even Elon Musk has when he wanted to buy Twitter, he had to work with people, shareholders and stuff. He had to get money from investors. He didn't have the liquidity to do it himself. Everyone's got to work with somebody, and whether you're the boss or not, it shouldn't matter. As long as you're making money and you're doing well for yourself, that's all that matters. Because even Floyd, he still had to work out that deal with Steven Espinosa. And Steven Espinosa had to approve the fights. So it's not like you could just do whatever you wanted and fight whoever you wanted. And you had some leverage, don't get me wrong. But again, Steven Espinosa was the guy signing your checks. You know what I'm saying? Showtime was signing your checks.
How can you expect Tank to just sit there and listen to him go on rants about how whoever's not their own boss and has a promoter and a boss is a loser, and then what do you just want Tank to just sit there and listen to this?
Yeah.
But then, like, you know what I mean? It's I don't. And by the way, I don't even think Mayweather's like thought about that. You know what I mean? I don't think he's like processed that, because I think when he goes at Pacquiao or De La Hoya, whoever he goes at, right, just Canelo, he's kind of like just focusing on trashing them, and he's not thinking about the consequences of what that has about the fighters he promotes, quite frankly.
Yeah, people say that a lot, though. Oh, I'm my own boss. I could never work for another man. I could never take orders from somebody else. Listen. I mean, again, there's always going to be rules that you have to follow. There's always going to be some type of compromises you're going to have to make in life. No one can just go through life saying, I'm going to do whatever I want to do when I want to do it.
It's like the people that say their shit don't stink, huh?
Yeah,
my shit don't stink
that way. This doesn't work that way, So let's move on. Enough with Tank and Floyd. But Regis Prograis, I thought looked phenomenal on Saturday. That was a great performance. We all thought he was going to win, but he did it in emphatic fashion. And I've always said this, and people can disagree or not. I always thought that he was the best at 140, in my opinion. I thought he beat Josh Taylor in that fight. It was a fight that could have gone either way, but I had him winning that fight. And what I loved in that fight was how he was kind of beating Josh Taylor at his own game in the later rounds. He got in his chest, he was in the pocket, and he was fighting with him in the pocket. And I never imagined that he would be able to hold his own against, the bigger Josh Taylor, in the pocket. But this guy can punch too. He's got an 85% knockout ratio, and he really put Zepeda's lights out in that. I think it was the 11th round. Mm-hmm. So the question I got for the panel is, looking at Josh Taylor's last fight and now looking at Regis Prograis, against Zepeda, he's got some momentum. Could we make an argument that Regis Prograis could be the best fighter at 140 pounds? What do you think, Dakota?
I think he probably is. And I mean, there's still an argument you could make that in theory, Taylor's the number one guy, but he hasn't fought in a year. And Prograis just got to win against another guy that's in the top 5. So I think that you could absolutely make an argument that he's the number one guy. I thought Regis looked really good in this fight because Zepeda is a tricky guy who can do a lot of different things. And it felt like Regis kind of put him on the back foot from like round 2 or 3 on. The only thing I notice about Regis, I don't know if any of you guys noticed this, man, he's always moving to his right. He's never not moving to his right. And I don't know how somebody hasn't timed that. I think Taylor kind of made him fight on the inside, so you saw it less. But the whole fight, man, he exclusively circles to his right. I just wonder if there's going to be guys that can figure that out.
You know what's weird about that? Because Pacquiao did the same thing. He would always move to his right, even when he was like throwing the left hand. And it's kind of an anomaly because when you're fighting, you usually move in the direction of your lead foot. You know what I'm saying? And, the thing is like, I think Regis Prograis is really good at like pivoting and turning. So, maybe that's why he does it, because he feels as though he could pivot out of the way quick enough. So, but yeah, I mean, you can make an argument for that because he's probably trying to set the left hand up a lot, but yeah,
I get why he's doing it, but it's at that level. It's rare that you see guys like he doesn't even have a pivot off to the left or a shuffle. Like it's all And even when he's pressing guys, he's trying to put guys in a corner. He keeps jabbing moving to his right, and he lets them out. So
that's a good point.
If somebody's really slippery, I think he's gonna have a hard time pinning them down.
Yeah, maybe he thinks he can get away with it because he's quick in his athleticism. But that's a good point. That's a good point because someone will pick up on that. If he becomes repetition, he becomes like a pattern fighter. People at the top level, people can pick. Guy like Terrence Crawford, he could definitely pick up on that if he ever decides to move up to 147. D-Style, what did you think of Prograis? And can we make an argument that he's the man at 140? Or does he have to take on Josh Taylor again?
Look, I mean, as far as what I think of, I thought it was a great performance. Zepeda's a good fighter, but there's levels to this, and I think he showed that, right? Overwhelmed him, stopped him late. That left hand is something else because he could shoot it straight, he could shoot it overhand, he can, like I told you the other day on the phone, it's like a guided missile. He could switch it in the middle, throwing it. Like if his opponent moves their head, he's really good at redirecting his punch. Like he'll pivot to the direction he needs to pivot to and move his hips where he needs to move them mid throwing punch to land it. I mean, it's actually phenomenal to watch. That the last left hand he landed was a thing of beauty. Then he, of course, he finished the job. Is he the best? I don't know. Even look, I'll be honest. I did score the fight for him against Taylor, You know, I thought he won that fight, but it was close. I scored it like 7-5. I had it really, really close.
That's what I had.
And I had a couple swing rounds. So I'm not arguing with anybody that scored it for Taylor because it could go either way. But
not at all.
I just make the argument that if the fight was in America, Regis would have won. Obviously, in the UK, the other guy won. If it was in a neutral place, it's probably a draw. Who fucking knows, right? So all I know is that in order to settle it, they got to fight, right? Like that's what needs to happen. They need to have a rematch. Okay.
Go at it.
But I do believe that people overvalue and winning matters, right? But people overvalue the opinion of 3 judges, right? They overvalue it, like to the point to where someone's opinion can go from you think Regis is the best to like maybe he's not that good just because 3 judges in that fight scored it for Taylor when they could have easily scored it for Prograis. Like that was a fight that could. What's that?
I hate to cut you off, but technically one judge had it a draw.
Okay, it was majority.
Not to nitpick. Not to nitpick. I apologize.
Well, there you go. Like it's probably a majority decision here for Prograis, right? Like I said, it's probably a draw anywhere else, but 100%. My point is, it hits home even more. Only 2 of the 3 had Taylor winning, in his not necessarily his backyard, but England's closer to Scotland than the U.S., right? So it is what it is. So all I know, okay, is if you believe that Regis was the best 140-pounder before that Taylor fight, I don't think you should feel any differently today, because nothing in that fight indicated that Taylor's a superior fighter. Like I don't think any guy like showed their dominance in the fight to where that guy's a better fighter. I just think it was close, could have gone either way, right? So my eye test tells me yes, babe. My eye test tells me he's the best 140-pounder in the world. Yeah. So my eye test tells me, but I can't call him that because to me the king of the division is Taylor right now officially.
Lee, what did you think of this fight? And am I wrong? Because I think Prograis is the best at 140. What's your opinion?
I agree. You can make a very strong argument, and you guys have said it before, that he is the best. He was the best going in, because I too felt that that Regis beat Josh Taylor 7 rounds to 5. And if you take a look at their respective faces, Regis Prograis made Josh Taylor's face look like it had been in a really, really hard fight. I also agree that if the fight had taken place anywhere but the UK, Regis would have been the winner, not only aesthetically but also statistically. I thought that Regis was a pretty heavy favorite to win this fight. I think it was like a 5-1 favorite, minus 500 choice. He lived up to it. I think that there were several factors that really separated him from Zepeda. One was his work rate. He averaged 61.5 punches a round. Zepeda only 37. And also the jab. Regis, for a southpaw fighter, southpaw fighters are not known for their jabs because they fight mostly right-handers, and the jab hand of the southpaw lines up perfectly with the left hand of the right-handed fighter. It blocks it. So they don't normally develop a really good jab, but Regis does. Regis has a very good jab. And he out-jabbed Zepeda, who is also a very good jabber. His history suggests that he is very good fighting at long range behind the jab, and he has good power. Regis was physically stronger. He landed more of his jabs, and we actually interviewed Regis yesterday. We taped the latest episode of our podcast, which can be seen Saturday afternoon, Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Fight.tv. But we interviewed Regis yesterday, and he specifically said that the jab was really the key to his victory. And because he practices several different types of jabs, he varies the location, he varies the intensity, he varies the angles of it. He keeps his opponents guessing as to which jab is going to come next and when does the power shot come behind it. He was very accurate with his power shots, and when he had Zepeda hurt, he finished it. And you could almost see in his face when he was ready to unleash the final flurry, he knew he was close to the end of his 3-year odyssey of getting another world title. He went for it. He put it away. And really, I think it was a catharsis for him. And because of this victory, the 3 years in the wilderness are done. And now he's got potentially 2 or 3 years in the spotlight because Jose Carlos Ramirez is next. Ramirez stepped aside to let this fight happen on the promise that he would get the next shot. So you got Jose Carlos Ramirez next. And then if Teofimo Lopez, as expected, beats Sandor Martin, he takes his place in line after that. And then, of course, if Josh Taylor is still at 140 pounds, that's the fight Regis wants the most. If he's still at 140 pounds, and if Regis beats Ramirez and Teofimo, not the easiest task in the world, of course, then we have the big rematch with Josh Taylor. And frankly, Regis Prograis, he got a nutritionist. He has his weight under control. He was 1 full pound under the weight for Zepeda. So he's got his weight issues settled. He's got motivation. He's going to fight all these big fights for presumably big money. He did get paid. He did say that he got paid. So he's got a very good road ahead of him. The world has opened up for him, and I couldn't be happier for him. And he may well sweep the table. And if he sweeps the table, maybe Canastota comes knocking for him.
Yeah. I think eventually too, when he moves up to 147 and you got guys like Crawford and Spence that go up to 154, I think he can make some noise up at 147 too. I think he definitely can. So
Regis did say that he was going to stay at 140 for the rest of his career.
Oh, did he really? Okay.
Yes, he did.
All right. That's interesting. Okay. D-Style, I was shocked when you sent me this video, this story the other day about Carlos Padilla, admitting that he had a long count against Nedal Hussein, and he also admitted too that the headbutt that Manny Pacquiao hit Hussein with, busted up his head. He knew it was a headbutt, but he ruled it a punch. So this story was just mind-boggling to me. How I think it was Mauricio Sulman was interviewing him, and how he would just sit there, he was laughing about it. Like, who are these guys thinking? Like, did they think that this was acceptable to talk about this and bring this up and laugh about it and make a joke about it? Do you think that Hussein has a right to have this fight overturned? Do you think this fight should be overturned, even though this was from the year 2000, 22 years ago? Do you guys think this fight should be overturned? Lee, we'll start with you, man. What do you think about this debacle? Well,
normally we would say no. That fight took place too many years ago. They're not going to overturn it. But remember a few weeks ago, I think it was at the WBC convention, Jeff Fenech was given the victory over Zuma Nelson in the first fight. He was declared a 4-division world champion. He was granted a belt. I don't know if BoxRec is going to recognize it or what happens. I mean, that's precedent setting if it sticks. But now that Mauricio Sulaiman has done this, he has opened up a potential Pandora's box for all sorts of controversial decisions involving WBC title fights to be overturned. And in light of what Padilla said in that video, that he purposely gave Pacquiao a long count, 18 seconds, and all the other things that he said, if I were Nedal Hussein, I'd say, why not? Why not pursue an overturning of that result? Now, I don't know what the result would be. I don't think it was a world title fight, so maybe it's just an additional W on his record, a big W, but a W nonetheless. But in light of what was said, why not? Why not pursue it? Jeff Fenech, he did win that fight. He should have won that fight, and the judges rescored it afterwards. I don't know how good it is, though, to rescore a controversial fight, knowing that the conventional wisdom is that one fighter A should have won, but fighter B should have won, that subconsciously you would score the close rounds just so that you line up with conventional wisdom. The real scorecard is the one that you see live, and that's it. So these three judges knew the controversy surrounding the fight. They scored it accordingly. Jeff Fennick was declared the winner, and there you go. So yeah, Nedal Hussein's got a case. Why not pursue it? I don't know if anything will come from it, but why not try? Or they can say his case.
Gotcha. D-Style, you think this decision should be changed at least to a no contest, or have that loss taken off Hussein's record?
Let's go over everything. He admits to it, and everyone needs to understand this. How boxing counts were handled then is a little different to the way they're handled now, right? There's a lot more emphasis today on fighter safety, and refs are encouraged in some cases to have the fighter either walk this way, walk that way, or come to me. Let me see the gloves. Everything's a little different now. Okay, I just want to make sure people understand that, and it's been the case as boxing has evolved. Fighter safety has become a bigger issue than ever before. Okay, that's number one, right? But he admitted openly that he saw Manny Pacquiao's eyes cross-eyed. He didn't think he could continue, but he prolonged it as much as he can by asking him twice, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I want you to think about this. A referee openly admitted that he didn't think he should have been fighting, but I let him fight anyway. Let's hypothetically say Hussein would have landed some more bombs on Pacquiao and really hurt him. And there is no more Manny Pacquiao. He's very fortunate that Pacquiao recovered, and you know what I mean? Very fortunate. That's number one. And I also want to throw out there just really quick, Pacquiao's just a fighter here. He just got up. He did beat the count. He's not responsible for any of this. Okay? I just want to put that out there. He was still fighting, was hanging on for dear life. That's what he's supposed to do when he's hurt, I guess. But then he admits, Pacquiao was holding on for dear life, so when he shoved him off, I stopped the action. I took a point from him. So you admit taking a point for two obviously you're going to help out Pacquiao because he was knocked down. Now you're going to take away a point. So it affects your decision, the judging, and it's giving Pacquiao more time, right? And he's just laughing about it. Oh yeah, and I told him, one point, and I still don't know that was Mauricio, but it sounds like him just laughing along. Like it's funny, you know what I mean? It's crazy. Padilla, and I know why you were a ref. You never made it to the comedy strip. You're not that funny, brother. Okay, and then it gets worse. It gets worse, bro. He has some plausible deniability there by saying, you know what, I was just having fun with the story. But if you look at it, it doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look like he was prolonging the count that long, right? The point deduction was bullshit, but, he admits that Pacquiao's head collided with him and cut him. He admits that he saw it. He admits and articulates the consequences and how different it is if it was a headbutt versus if it was a punch. Oh, if it was a headbutt, the skin was cut, man, he wasn't. It would have been a point deduction. I guess those were the rules at the time. And then he's like, and not only that, I mean, I could just go to the judge. He admits that, the cut wasn't that bad, but hey, I had to do what I had to do and take the responsibility off my shoulders. So I was behind him, and when I got to the wink and the nod, and to the doctor, and the doctor waved it off, and they laugh about it. And if you go back, bro, it's kind of heartbreaking to watch because the dude's like, whoa, you're gonna stop it? What the fuck? Like they were protesting in the middle of the ring, and then Pacquiao celebrating like he just like won by knockout or something, right? Look, I don't know what could be done because it's been so long, but I'm gonna take it a step further. This dude admitted to a crime. Look, I know the statute of limitations and it won't happen, but this dude should be serving jail time. He admitting to cheating in a prize fight. People bet in boxing. Okay? Like this is the dude should probably serve jail time. It won't happen because it's been so long. But this is jail time activity, what he admitted to, quite frankly. And in my opinion, he should be stripped of anything accolades he's gotten. If he was inducted in the Hall of Fame, or he should be stripped of that immediately, in my opinion. Okay. It is a shame that that's the other thing. Lee just pointed this out. He admitted, I was Filipino. The crowd was Filipino. Pacquiao's Filipino. Yeah, I had to do what I had to do. Like, you don't say that, dude. First of all, you shouldn't even have done it anyway. But the fact that he sits there thinking to himself, hey, what are we going to do about it? This shit was years ago. I'm retired, whatever, right? I saw an interview of, you guys could check it out on Boxing Deep Dive, okay? It's an Australian boxing channel. They did an interview with Hussein. I mean, he's angry, and I don't blame him, right? And he's mainly angry because, like, he acknowledges that he kind of knows what happened that night, but it's just the audacity that's just talking about it and rubbing it in and laughing the way he's laughing about it. This altered this guy's career, right? This made him, like if you look at his career, I think this made him lose his love for boxing. He wasn't the same after this fight. And I think it's bullshit. So I'll take it a step further. Padilla should be in jail.
Wow. Okay. Dakota, what were your thoughts on this story, listening to Padilla laugh about it and admitting that he altered the course of this fight and helped out Manny Pacquiao?
Well, the first thing is, I also think it's important to note that the count, like if you just straight up watch the video, the count is fucking long. Like it is long. You know what I mean? So I think it just, I think it speaks to his comfortability, you know, that he's willing to talk about how he goes about his business and in boxing that openly. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I mean, I don't think he should be, if there's any kind of accolades or accomplishments or awards that he has, I don't think you should be able to keep them. But I think it probably speaks to a larger problem. Like, I'm sure there's way more fights than we really know of, or we're not exactly getting the clean, fair fight we think we are. And I think just the fact that he let that slip kind of proves that.
Yeah. It's funny, too, because as fans, every time we talk about things that don't look right, and we'll point it out, what is the first thing that we get called? Oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. How do you know that happened? You know, all you got to do is just look at the empirical data. We've seen fights that have been thrown before. You can go back to the days of when the Mafia used to fix fights, and Jake LaMotta, you know, admitted to fixing fights, and other fighters have fixed fights before, and they admitted it was very prevalent back in the day. Right. And anytime you mention something that doesn't look right, you get attacked. Oh, what's wrong with you? You're just trying to make up things and be this conspiracy theorist. But when you got guys coming out and admitting that they've done nefarious things in there, this stuff's not far-fetched anymore.
Real casual.
I just want to point this one out really quick. Just really quick. You guys remember the BT fight with Andrade?
Yes.
Remember that count? And he kept turning around, go back to your corner. Go back. Like, bro, we know what the fuck he was doing. Like, everybody knows what that ref was doing. You know what I mean? And the dude made it sound like Andrade was like on the other side of the ring. Like, he was just a couple, like 1 or 2 feet away from the corner. Shit was ridiculous, right? He was just ready to pounce in case you continued the count or whatever, but it wasn't affecting anything, right? But I think we do see it enough. But one more thing. And this goes to the Deontay Wilder fans. No, this is not proof that Fury cheated. This doesn't mean that they had egg weights in his glove. Oh, cheating happens in boxing, therefore my guy was cheated. No, you need evidence of it, right? Yeah. So I just want to put that out.
So, Calix, what if you had money on Hussein in this fight and you were getting good odds and then this happened? How would you feel as a boxing fan hearing this years later, 20 years later?
20 years later, a little sting comes off of it, right? Statute of limitations, except for the fighter who was wronged, obviously. Now, I don't have much to add to what you guys just said because you're nailing it, but to what the gentleman was saying earlier, the casualness of it. He's just like casually admitting what, and it speaks to how corrupt the sport really is. And it goes to what you were saying, Beeb, right? There's so much corruption that it almost makes it tougher because you point out things that are not right, and then you're consistently called a conspiracy theorist for it. So in this case, I feel bad for the fighter. Now, I didn't go back and watch the actual fight, so somebody was telling me like it was an 18 count, something like that. Now, the count, it's not seconds. It goes by referee discretion. It's his count, but once you get to 18, it starts to get absurd, right? This isn't Tyson versus Buster Douglas where it's like 11 or 12, or Wilder versus Fury 1 where it's 11 or 12. This is absurd. Now, one thing that D-Style, I don't have much to add to what everybody was saying because y'all nailed it, but one thing to sort of elaborate on what D-Style said about the Andrade fight, Butte, is I hate, and it's almost like a epidemic in boxing now when the referees, they give the count, they give the 8 count, and then the fighter comes there and they're waving the other fighter to the neutral corner, and then they're constantly like rubbing the gloves off. Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? And they almost sometimes ask it like 5 or 6 times. It's like, dude, he got his 8 count, rub off his gloves, and let the other fighter try to capitalize off of what he just did. But it's sort of getting absurd, the discretion that these referees are allowed when they're asking the guy if he's okay 5 or 6 times. Man, you got to let the fighter capitalize off of the damage that he just did. And if that fighter isn't able to continue after taking 1 or 2 shots, as part of the sport. But I don't like that discretion, and I like to see something done about it, but I don't think that will happen.
I will say this: the fact that he admitted that it was a headbutt and not caused by a punch, at the very least, should make it a no contest, in my opinion.
Yeah, but D-Style, I don't think you can go 20 years later and do it, because I mean it opens up the floodgates to, there are fights 50, 60, 70 years ago that we know now. And
we would need, like, let's say that causes a precedent, right? Let's just, then you would need referees to admit to doing that, which that's not going to be happening.
But there are fights 50, 60, 70 years ago that we know now were set up, and the result stays the same. It just stays the same. So I don't know. There has to be some sort of statute of limitations, I get. But I'm with you. I feel bad for the fighter. I don't really know how to navigate this. I got to be honest.
I'll say this: a lot of the fighters that happened to way back in the day that it was proven, those guys have passed or whatever. But this guy's alive now, and this was just so egregious because never before has someone actually described it in detail like this on how he did it. And it wasn't just one thing he did. He did multiple things, to make this. And I mean, this isn't like, this isn't like a crime. Well, D-Style said it's a crime, but technically, I don't know if it's a crime. But I mean, when you find out something
what happened to the refs that were fixing basketball games?
Yeah, they got punished. They definitely. Yeah.
Well, one of them did. They swept the other ones under the rug. That's that's a whole nother problem.
They need a fallout guy, yeah. But he has a fallout guy right here.
When you use statute of limitations, the way that's applied is it's differently across the board, because people have committed like murders 20 years ago, and then they found out that the evidence proved that they did it, and they still go to jail. So it's like,
what if the WBC at their next convention, it's the least they could do, give them an honorary bout, I mean, give the guy something. You know what I mean? And maybe give them something. You give them $100,000 or something. Stop being greedy with a little.
They did it for
You got to remember, B. There's been corruption that's proven in other sports. Look at Donaghy. Look at the Kings versus Lakers 2002 series. We know it was fixed, but they can't go back. They can't go back and say the Kings won that series. They can't. Look at the Astros in the World Series. They can't go back and take that away from the Astros.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, but it's different when the officials, like in this case, the official is flat out admitting it. Like he's detailing everything he did and the intent.
Yeah, what if
The
an
intent is the
official,
hardest thing to prove.
what if an official says I got paid to judge for a certain guy? It was 35 years ago. Does that result stay the same? Like there has to be a line on, like if someone's admitting to openly not doing something in good faith, you know what I'm saying? That should be able to be changed.
I think
I believe there was an investigation about Roy Jones's loss in the Olympics, and they found that 2 of the judges were influenced, and they had evidence, but they still didn't overturn it and give him the gold medal.
Yeah, I understand where Calix is coming from. I think he makes some valid points, but you know what? Why not set a precedent? Why not just set a precedent this time? Why not put our foots on? At the very least, just make it a no contest. You don't have to say he won. Just make it a no contest, as if the fight never happened. Because you still don't know what would have happened. You can't. It didn't look good for Pacquiao, but you don't know if he would have pulled it out. So just make the fight a no contest, in my opinion.
But you know what they're going to do? You know what they're going to do instead, Beeb?
What's that?
In a typical boxing move, they're gonna let this news cycle go away. And something else is going to flush it out. It'll be Errol Spence announcing his opponent or something like that. It'll flush away. And Pacquiao, they're not going to take a win away from Pacquiao and give it to this guy that nobody cares about. And that's just I hate that it's that way. I do. I'm with you, but that's just the nature of the beast.
No, I got it.
Condition rematch. That's what
I don't know about that. No, but and here's the thing, and here's the saddest thing of all. Like I actually saw the fight. I honestly do believe, like, there's no way to know, but I think Pacquiao would have recovered. I don't think he needed the assistance, and he was ahead on the scorecards. Like he might have won anyway, but Padilla was trying to do the hookup when he shouldn't have, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
And then there's the question of how many. He was speaking so cavalierly about this, and he was doing it in such detail. Yeah. It begs the question: has he done this in other fights?
Yeah, dude, he was doing it well, that's what you're supposed to do, right? I mean, I'm Filipino crowd, that's what we do, right? Like, no, that's not what you do. What do you mean? It's crazy.
It was almost like Gaylord Perry in the Spitball. Rest in peace, Gaylord Perry. But for years and years and years, they suspected he threw a grease ball, and he even wrote his autobiography. I think it was called "Me and the Spitter." And in baseball, it's treated sort of like like a rogue, a roguish guy, with a nod and a wink. I got away with something. It shouldn't be that way, but it is, and that's the attitude I sort of got from Padilla when he spoke about it on the video. Yeah, it happened. Ha ha ha. No, it shouldn't be treated like that. This changed the life of Nedal Hussein. Who knows where his career would have gone if he had scored the TKO victory over Manny Pacquiao? Yeah, would Pacquiao have become Pacquiao? And would Nedal Hussein, would he have become greater than he ended up being?
Yeah, look, I think Pacquiao would have still been Pacquiao. I think he would have recovered, just like he did his other 2 knockout losses. He would have recovered. He would have came back, because I think whoever's destined for greatness anyway, right? In that interview I saw, Nedal admitted, like, look, I'm not like at that level like that. I don't think he even said that he didn't think he would have been able to beat Morales and Barrera and all that, but he just wanted that. Like, that was his opportunity to have a big win. And one thing I agree with you, Lee, is if he had a win over Pacquiao, knowing how Pacquiao exploded, right? He would have gotten paydays because, hey, I'm going to put my guy in the ring with a dude that has a win over Manny Pacquiao. We could promote the fight that way. And he would have gotten fights. He would have gotten paydays just off of that alone. Just off of that alone, he would have gotten paydays.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll talk about something else that I found kind of weird this weekend. Jamal Charlo was at the Regis Prograis Zepeda fight, and so was Dimitry Bivol. And they would, Jamal confronted Dimitry Bivol. They were face to face, and he goes to Dimitry Bivol, why don't you and I fight for undisputed? And Dimitry Bivol looks at him like he's crazy. He's like, undisputed? I mean, he goes, you're undisputed? He goes, no, me and you will fight for undisputed. He goes, I only have one belt. You have one belt. Where we going to fight? Oh, we'll fight at 168. But Canelo's undisputed. Like, what's going on with Jamal Charlo, man? Like, has he lost the plot? Like, he's always at these events, and I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to make fun of the guy, but like Spence, he's always at these events, like, kind of a little bit under the influence, if you know what I mean. And like, and then he has that issue with I think his wife was putting him on blast on social media too. What's going on with this guy, man? And when was the last time he fought too, right? He had the back injury.
June 2021.
Wow. So like what did he just lose the plot, man? Calix, what's going on with Charlo?
Spoke about this on my podcast yesterday. It's infuriating that people still find this entertaining, because I'm logging on to videos. I'm logging on YouTube and I'm seeing videos of him approaching Bivol, and it's getting 300,000, 400,000 clicks. And I don't understand why there's still a market for this. He's been doing this for years, and it's okay when you're backing it up, right? Like if Jermall does this, it's believable, right? He cleans out his division. He fights the top guys in his division. He may lose. He may have lost one, draw one, but he still cleans up his division. He fought the guys that he approached. He beat them, and he's fighting Tim Tszyu, by the way, next month. It's believable when he does it. When Maul does it, when 160 Charlo does it, you don't believe it because you've seen this movie before. This is the 87,000th time this dude has done this. He gets liquored up, gets drunk. He approaches any dude in and around his division who happens to be at the fight. And here it's Bivol, who's 2 weight classes north of him. And once again, it's not only that it's not believable, it's that he hasn't fought, I believe, now 530 days, something like that. Somehow he still has his belt. I don't get it. From what I understand, from what I'm hearing on back channels, he's going to fight Selecki in February. I hope that's not the case. But this is where we're at with him. So I'm tired out with it. I don't understand why there's a market for it. I don't understand how anybody can see him approach Bivol and think that that's believable at all. It works if you back it up. It works if it's somewhat realistic, and this is not any. And when I watched this exchange, for the love of God, B, at the beginning, I really believe Bivol didn't know who he was. Like who are you?
I thought that too, because like I didn't think Bivol like
who are you? Like Bivol's so like nonchalant, and I love Bivol because the first thing Bivol did after he beat Canelo, he kind of like shrugged it off, and he's like, no, I'm not really interested in the rematch. I want to fight better, Beav. I want all the belts. And I like fighters who approach it like a sport, like it resembles a sport. And that's what I appreciate about fighters like Bivol. And to me, Charlo, why I've lost interest in 160 Charlo, because at one point I had interest in him. There was talent there. There was it looked like drive there and entertainment value. But where he lost me is he's approaching it 100% like a business at this point, and I'm just not interested. It's not believable. So 168, like, does anybody really believe that Charlo would take a round off of Bivol at whatever weight? I don't. That's an easy matchup for Bivol. But there are intriguing matchups for Charlo at 160. There are intriguing matchups for him within the PBC banner at 168 if he approaches them. Believable, realistic fights, but whatever reason, we're not getting them.
Yeah, it's crazy. D-Star, what'd you think of Charlo? I don't know if you saw this clip with him confronting Bivol, asking him to fight for undisputed. What's going on with this dude, man?
I mean, first of all, he walks up to him like he's asking him to go out on a date or something. He didn't look like he's challenging him to a fight. Hey, yo, come on. Hey, when are we going to do this? Well, when are we going to, hey, I think we should fight, man. What do you think? Let's do it for undisputed. Yeah, well, why don't you fight in the moon too? You want to fight in Saturn too, or what? Well, what else you want? Like, what is this, bro? Like, I get it. He's looking for a fight, I guess. So he's gonna go like, you know what this is? This is him, and it kind of worked with some of his fans because some of his fans are out here saying, "Oh, he called out Bivol and Bivol was shook." I'm like, what? Like people live in a delusional world or something, right? Bivol like laughed at him and was like, dude, like, so where are we gonna fight? 160. And Bivol's like, 168. Okay, so you already admitted you'll fight at 168. Error number one. All right, you already made a mistake. So I don't want to hear that you won't fight Benavidez. I don't want to hear you won't fight Plant because you're willing to fight Bivol 168, right? But then, like, a lot of the same fans that would shred Canelo for fighting Bivol 168, oh, he's draining him, he's doing this, doing that, are the same fans that are okay with this, right? So Charlo could bring him down to 168, but Canelo can't. Like, you see, just be careful what you praise, because in the long run, you're going to have to explain it. Like, people collect receipts, all right? As far as Charlo goes, dude, like, Bivol's he's trying to make a fight happen with either Canelo or Better Beef. What the fuck do you bring to the table, brother? But let's just be realistic for a moment. What do you bring to the table? What does he get if he beats you? Nothing. He doesn't get anything. Like, but if he beats Charlo, he'll get Canelo. He could already get Canelo if he wants. He doesn't need to fight Charlo for that. Charlo doesn't have a belt. He doesn't have anything to offer him at 168 or 175. Nothing, right? The proper way to have done it, in my opinion, you should have walked up to him. That's what an old school fighter would have done. Hey, so I heard that you think you're all that because you beat Canelo. How about you fight me? I could beat you. I'll come to your weight class and beat you. How about that? If you don't want to do it, I understand, champ. I mean, I don't have anything to offer you really, but we both know I will beat you in a fight, right? And you get in his face and you look at him and you say that, and see how he reacts when you say that. If you really wanted to make this fight happen, right? Don't ask him out for a cup of tea and make this some call out, because it's not, right? This has to be the fakest call out I've ever seen in my life. This was fake as fuck. Because let's dive in a little bit. If Bivol says, okay, let's do it. What? So Al Heyman's going to just let you go to the zone and fight, or what? Or is Bivol going to have to go to PBC to fight? Because that's the first thing we got to answer. That's number one. All right? I just want to put that out there. Right? So that's that.
Gotcha. Dakota, this was hilarious, wasn't it?
Bro, this was just like another addition to the clickbait economy. I don't know what the fuck he thought he was doing, but, listen, I would love if Jermall fought like one elite middleweight or one elite super middleweight before he calls out the best light heavyweight. And you don't fight for a year and a half, you are probably lost to Matt Korobov, which is like your best opponent. I'm not hating on him as a fighter, but it's just like, you're not giving the fans much, and no one's asking for that. So don't act like somebody's ducking you when nobody's really asking for it anyway.
Gotcha. Lee, what did you think when you saw this?
There was a time not too many years ago when Jermall was actually seen as the better brother. He was the larger guy. He was the heavier hitter.
Always
He was
happened.
the knockout puncher. His brother lost to Tony Harrison. And look what has happened since then. Jermall has completely not only restored his reputation, but he enhanced it by becoming an undisputed champion. He regained the championship from the guy he lost it to, and then he proceeded to become undisputed. And he not only defeated the guy who he became undisputed against, he did it again in a rematch, and he knocked him out. And look where he is now. And meanwhile, Jermall has really gone nowhere. I mean, he's only, again, he hasn't fought in a year and a half. And when he fought Montiel, everyone was expecting him to knock him out. And he didn't. He went the full 12 rounds. He delivered a beating on Montiel. But, after the fight, it was Jermall who said, You're a lion. You're a real fighter. He was heaping praise on Montiel because he did not fall. And this really seems to me like a guy who is trying to regain his relevance. And it's funny that he would approach Bivol, who a year ago was kind of, he was a world champion, but he wasn't in the forefront, the front burner of people's minds in as far as boxing is concerned. A victory over Canelo Alvarez and then another victory over Gilberto Ramirez. One of the most dangerous fighters he could have taken. He dominates them both. And he may well be fighter of the year. He may well be fighter of the year because of that. And that was the clout that he was chasing. And it really made no sense because, one, he hadn't fought in a year and a half. He's a middleweight champion. Bivol's a light heavyweight champion. He doesn't need to fight Charlo in order to get Canelo because Canelo has said, my objective is to get a rematch with Bivol. So doesn't need to go through Charlo to get that. Canelo, the undisputed super middleweight champion, is charting his course for the next year around Bivol. Doesn't need that. I think it's the very fact that we are talking about him right now and talking at length about him. He has won a little bit of relevance just because of that. And he has a history of approaching other fighters at fight cards, getting in their face, getting videos of him jawing with these guys. That's how he keeps himself relevant, I guess. But, in the end, the way you really become relevant is by fighting, and by fighting guys who people think can beat you and beating them. That's what Bivol has done. Now he is set up for Beterbiev if he gets past Yard, and most people think he will. He becomes undisputed at 175 if he beats Beterbiev. Canelo, undisputed versus undisputed. The world opens up for Bivol. And Charlo wants a little bit of that. But really, the best thing that Charlo can do is just get back in the ring, defend your championship, fight 3 times a year, build up your brand, and then maybe the big guys, you can walk up to a big guy and say, I want to fight you, and that big guy will say, I want to fight you too. That's the goal.
I want to make this point about call-outs because people can't seem to understand the concept of it. So the reason the Lara call-out of Canelo worked is because Lara had that phenomenal victory over Austin Trout, who at the time was Canelo's best win, right? Like I beat the dude you beat better than you did. Now I'm calling you out. Like he had something over Canelo's head. Like people couldn't believe he was a threat to Canelo, right? When Andrade's calling out Canelo, yet he's always been a double-digit favorite in all his fights over all his opponents, it doesn't resonate. Charlo hasn't fought anybody at 160. So when he calls out Bivol, it comes off as random, right? When Ali was calling out Liston, Ali had credible wins over credible contenders. He was ranked number 1. Like he was like, are you going to fight me, champ, or not? I'm number 1. Let's go. Like you need to have something over the fighter for people to believe, yo, he's calling you out, brother. You got to do this, right? You can't just say no to this. Like you got to have something. You can't just randomly. In that case, what's stopping? Like I don't know, like any heavyweight from just walking up to Fury and saying, I want to fight you. Well, okay. Well, who are you? Like you know what I mean? Or what do you bring to the table? Like if Joe Joyce walks up to Fury, said, "Yo, let's do this," people are going to believe it, right? If Dubois does it, you know what I mean? Like I'm just saying, like it
There has
just
to be banned.
yes.
As you and Dakota alluded to it earlier as well, there has to be demand, some sort of demand, even if it's not entertainment value, even if Lara wasn't a popular fighter, but there was demand because competitive wise, he was top of the division with Canelo. There was some demand there. There's no demand here at all. You're 2 weight classes apart from each other. He's hot. You're not. There's no demand.
Gotcha.
It's like when that UFC fighter, Usman or whatever, was calling out Canelo and they asked Canelo about it. He just like, payday, and he just moved on. Like, there's no credible demand for that. No one is taking that fight serious like that, right? When Jake Paul calls out Canelo, he doesn't even like entertain it, right? It's not a serious call out. But if Bivol tomorrow said, you know what? I'll wait on better beef. I want to beat up Canelo again. Yo, Canelo, we're going to do this? Canelo needs to answer that. He can't just like pretend Bivol didn't say anything. You know what I mean? And it's like when Canelo called out Messi, like Messi didn't take that serious, bro. Like Messi's like, yo, what do you mean? Kiss the ring. You guys see he apologized to Messi? I'm just saying. It got messy, by the way, on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a good look when a boxer calls out tries to, call out non-boxers and stuff, and makes you look like the bully in those situations, my opinion. But
well, he didn't say he was going to beat him up. He just said he better pray to God I don't run into him.
That's pretty much the same thing, I would say. But cap or no cap, this is another thing that seems to never go away, right? Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua. Apparently, the WBC has ordered Andy Ruiz and Deontay Wilder to fight in the WBC Eliminator. But now Wilder is saying that he would like to circumvent that fight and go straight to Anthony Joshua. And he wouldn't mind going to the UK to do it. Shelley Finkel said that, they're talking to Eddie Hearn right now. And, that's something that they want to do. But I think Joshua's probably going to fight Dillian Whyte next. So what's going on with Wilder? I mean, would PBC allow this fight to happen? Would they allow Wilder to go to the UK? And the fight would have to be on DAZN, right? But would they try to like put maybe on pay-per-view on United States, maybe on Showtime pay-per-view or Fox pay-per-view? How would this thing work? Is Deontay Wilder telling the truth here? Is Shelley Finkel telling the truth here? Do they really think that they could make this fight next? We'll start with you, Calix. The little boy who cried wolf, or should we fall for this one?
Stop the cap. Stop the cap. Yes,
Stop the cap.
It's cap.
Yeah.
No, look, I think what it is they know that Anthony Joshua, I think they feel like Anthony Joshua has something planned already, and Wilder is creating alibis here. Like, no, I wanted to fight, but the Wilder Ruiz fight to me is already in motion. I think that one's happening. That's going to be a Fox pay-per-view. I'm not a Fox pay-per-view. I think it's going to be a Showtime pay-per-view in the spring. I think that fight's already happening. So we've been here before, and we saw it play out to where the PBC wasn't allowing Wilder to take that fight. Instead, they went the Fury route. And I think the same thing is going to happen here. I hope I'm wrong, because I still say it. I've said it for a while in the heavyweight division. The most entertaining fight to me is Wilder versus Joshua, because somebody's catching a body. One of them is getting knocked out. Both of them have shown that they could be a bit chinny. Both of them have shown that they can get to the opponent's chin. They mirror each other in a lot of ways. One of them's catching a body. And I hope that fight does come off, because it would be a huge fight as well. Put it in the UK. It's going to sell out. There's not an empty stadium in a soccer stadium. And it's going to do good numbers on both sides of the pond. So I hope I'm wrong about this. I hope it's no cap and they get this done, because I'd much rather see that than the Ruiz fight. And I'd much rather see that than a Dillian Whyte fight or whatever else Joshua's going to have going on.
Got you. Dakota, how many times do you think we're going to fall for this, man? Is this cap or no cap, man?
Hey, listen, bro. They got to put Gamboa versus Juanma Lopez on the undercard. They'll just do a whole card of like fights we never got. We'll have Sergey Kovalev versus Adonis Stevenson. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's
and Wolfley Lally, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Just get all the fights that we never got to see. And no, I don't think this fight's gonna happen. I think Joshua will fight Dillian Whyte. I think Wilder will probably fight Andy Ruiz or Usyk. Hopefully Usyk. I think that's a lot more interesting. But I think they like to use each other's names to generate clickbait for sure.
Definitely. Lee, are they trying to pull the wool over our eyes again?
Do I believe Wilder wants to fight AJ? Yes. he does want to fight AJ. He wants to fight everybody. Wilder's got a big fighting heart. He'll fight anybody, and he'll fight to the bitter end. Will it happen? No, because of the reasons why you guys said. The roadmap is pretty much mapped out, at least tentatively. And for Wilder, it's Andy Ruiz. For AJ, it's probably Dillian Whyte. After that, perhaps. I think all that's being done right now is planting seeds for the future. Oh, okay. So they're at least talking about it. Okay, something to look forward in the future. Again, wait until the press conference. Wait until some big announcement comes. Otherwise, it's just talk. And boxing, because big fights don't happen as often as they should, it is being fed by rumors. There's time for rumors to be spread and rumors to be created and spread. So now I'm an old dude, so based on what you're saying, no cap means truth, cap means lie, correct?
Yeah.
No cap on his wanting to do it, but cap as far as having that fight happen in the immediate future.
Gotcha.
Did I get that right?
You got it right. Good job,
cool.
Lee. Good job, Lee. D-Style, I mean, are you disagreeing with anything here?
No, you know what this is, and this is a new thing now. Boxers or boxing, or whatever it is they're starting to figure out that this thing of let's tease the fans the fight they want to see, but then we're going to give them some else, right? That's the thing now. That's what they do. That's what Tank and Ryan are doing, right? Like, oh, we're going to fight guy. Oh, it's official. We agreed in principle. Oh, but hold on. We're going to give you a teaser first. I'm going to fight someone else. Ryan's going to fight somebody else. Yeah, I got a court date, but don't worry about that. We're going to fight, though. So just tune in, okay? And we'll see you next year. But in the meantime, I'm going to be fighting this other dude, okay? Just tune in. Look, well, I'll bet my left nut that this dude's going to fight Andy Ruiz, okay? He ain't going to fight he ain't going to fight Anthony Joshua. He's going to fight Andy Ruiz. That Ruiz Wilder's going to happen. Okay, they're both PBC. It's easy to make. It's cash out time for one or the other. They're going to capitalize. Point blank. Period. It's a fight that they could put on pay-per-view. I don't think it should, but to them it is. That's the fight that's going to happen. Period. Point blank. That's the fight that's going to happen. That's what they're doing. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for the old. All this started with Beef's favorite fighter, Sugar Ray Leonard. Okay, teasing everybody about fighting Hagler, then he'll fight somebody else. Okay, and then what they do, this is the oldest trick in the book. Like De La Hoya, Trinidad, everybody wanted to see that fight. Well, in the meantime, watch us fight everybody else. Right now, granted that shit got done in a year and a half. Though they didn't make us wait 4 or 5 years. It just gotten worse since then. Okay, it's gotten worse. Right. The latest example is obviously Crawford Spence. They've been teasing that fight. They're not fighting each other. They're fighting other fighters. Mayweather Pacquiao is the most successful, of all this. Everything was Pacquiao Mayweather, the testing. Oh, well, let's do random blood testing. Let's do this. Who's better? Who's number one pound for pound? All this, whatever it is, they were fighting everybody else except each other until eventually they just had to fight each other. There's how Andy Ruiz fight, brother. And all this started because of your favorite fighter, Pete.
Okay.
He's the grandfather of it. He started it all.
Yeah. Left people hanging, man. 1984, that meeting. It let everyone on, yeah. Broke everyone's heart when he said, this great fight with Marvin Hagler, it'll never happen. But it did. So we got to give him credit for that.
Okay.
All right, last topic of the night. Going to close out the year with another good trilogy. Chocolatito versus Juan Francisco Estrada 3. Both fights, the first two were close. Could have gone either way. I thought the first fight was a draw. I had Estrada edging the second. Will this be another hotly contested battle, or these guys got some miles on them? will this fight be as good as the first two? We'll start with you, Lee, and who do you have winning also?
Is it going to be as good a fight as the first two? I think so, because the styles mesh beautifully. You got Estrada, who is a boxer who can slug, and you got Chocolatito, who is a slugger who can box. And the punch numbers from the first two fight are just absolutely astronomical. I think in the final round of their rematch, Chocolatito threw 158 punches, and I think Estrada threw 140 something. Their styles are just made for each other, and I expect nothing less than 12 more rounds of mayhem. I am picking Chocolatito to win because look at their last fights. You had Chocolatito taking on the reigning WBC flyweight champion in Martinez and absolutely schooling him and shutting him out. Short notice opponent. Martinez wanted to rise to 115. Anyway, he was a late sub opponent for Estrada, by the way, and who I think had COVID. And we saw what kind of performance that Chocolatito would produce if he was in the condition to fight Estrada for the third time. Up until a few days before, he thought he was fighting Estrada, so he whipped himself in really good shape, and then he proceeded to whip Martinez. Meanwhile, Estrada came back against RG Cortez. It was a homecoming fight. He was expected to absolutely dominate, and he did nothing but. He had a tough time in the early rounds of that fight. He was shook a couple of times. So I think that the fight is going to be determined more by who could take it better than who could dish it out better. We already know both of them can dish it out. But I think that Chocolatito at this point in his career, even though he is the older man, I think that he has Estrada's number as far as the styles are concerned. I think that he should be up 2-0 instead of 1-1. I think Chocolatito's going to take it by unanimous decision, but it's going to be another great watch.
Dakota, what are your thoughts on this trilogy?
I'm excited about this one, man. I don't think we're going to get, a couple of rich guy performances like we did with Golovkin and Canelo. I think that they're probably going to come at it with the same kind of energy they've always come at it with. And, again, I think both fights were both flip a coin fights. I think Chocolatito probably edged both of them by a hair, like Lee said. But the thing that I'm wondering about Estrada is he's always kind of performed down to competition at times. There's been guys that, in theory, I didn't think he'd have a hard time with, and then he loses a couple rounds here and there. So I can't tell if it's his ring age or if that's just a characteristic of his. And he had that performance going into this fight, either from ring rust or whatever the case may be. So I think Estrada's more alive than he's being given credit, but I definitely favor Chocolatito.
Okay. D-Style, what are your thoughts, man?
I love this fight. The fans will win again. I think it's impossible for these two to have a boring fight because their styles just mesh perfectly. Kind of like Ali Frazier did. It just, for whatever reason, it's perfect. It's a perfect harmony. And we're not going to get a lot of the things boxing fans complain about, like holding and all, like we're not going to get a lot of that in this fight, right? We're going to get a lot of inside boxing, phone booth boxing, mid-range boxing. We're going to get everything. And I think what's important to note is, although I think people that don't watch the lower weight classes, they see these guys look like little fireballs, and it looks like it's all offensive. That's how it looks. But if you pay attention and if you look at the stats, they're not getting hit. Like they're getting hit at a very low percentage because they're bobbing, they're weaving, they're rolling, they're blocking shots, they're catching shots, and they're doing this in the same motion as while they're being offensive. It's just very fast pace, and quite frankly, it's almost a different sport to the higher weight classes, right? The higher weight classes, you see more of I'm going to be offensive. Okay, I'm going to shut that off. Now I'm defensive. I'm going to shut that off. Now I'm offensive. Now it's my turn. Where these two guys specifically, they're really good at being both at the same time. Okay. Just something to pay attention to. So even though they're throwing a lot, even though they're getting hit a lot because they're throwing a lot, they're not getting hit at a very high percentage, like not anything abnormal. So to me, this is a sweet science. This is boxing at the highest level. Now, with that said, Chocolatito didn't win that first fight. Okay. Now I know people, but he did. No, he didn't. Okay. He did not win that first fight. And Estrada wanted that smoke again. He finally got it. Now, and I'll be honest, I scored the rematch 7-5 for Chocolatito, right? I did, even though I was going for Estrada. So I do think he won the rematch, but I do think it was close. I think when I hear people say, no, he won, period. Nah, I think people have a lot of, look, Chocolatito's a great guy. He's a man of God. He's a good person. And then I think it's human instinct to defend somebody like that, because he's such a good guy. You want good things to happen for him. But it doesn't mean that we have to just proclaim him the victor and no argument whatsoever for Gallo. I mean, I don't know about that. I think the fights were razor close. I think they were very competitive. And I disagree with anyone who says that there's no need for a third fight. He won first two fights. I don't know about that. With all due respect to Doug Fisher and some other guys out there that feel very strongly about that, I just strongly disagree. And then that's okay, because this time there's going to be no debate. No. Gallo hasn't looked that great. I know that, but he's going to get up for this one. For this one, he's going to get up for this one. He's ready for this one. All right. Chocolatito's been looking good. I get it. All praise to him, but there's ebbs and flows in boxing, and I think Gallo's going this way. Chocolatito's going this way. He's going down a little bit. You know what I mean? I predict that Gallo Estrada will win. Another controversial decision on the cards. I don't see a stoppage. There'll probably be a little less punches thrown this time. I think they're going to be a little more strategic. But I got Gallo winning this fight. Like 7-5, something like that. He wins again. And this time, he will win so convincingly. At least those 7 rounds will be so convincing that even Catholics will have to admit he won. That's right.
Shout out to Nando Lamas. He says the finale of an all-time trilogy almost always fire. Morales, Barrera 3, sneaky, great. Got you.
I mean, it's the only one that Barrera really won. If we're honest, it's the only one he really won. Like, the other 2 fights, like Morales won. I just want to put that out there, right? The audacity of people that will say Chocolatito clearly won the Gallo fights, but like they wouldn't admit that Morales clearly won that second Barrera fight. I mean, this is great. I'm just putting that out there.
All right, Calix, where's the smart money going this Saturday, brother?
I'm struggling with that right now. I've been looking at the prop bets up and down. First of all, let me say, D-Style is right in that Estrada has earned this trilogy, and it's not even about earning it. Like, to me, these certain fighters are made for each other, and Estrada has more than proven that he belongs on that level. He's a worthy adversary to Chocolatito. He is. Now, I had Chocolatito winning both fights. I actually thought the first fight was close. I thought that it was way closer than the scorecards, but I still had Chocolatito winning it. But he does. This trilogy needed to happen. It did. And to me, these 2 fighters are criminally underrated by the boxing public at large. And the reason I say that is I'm looking at the news cycle this week and barely anybody's talking about the fight. They're talking about Charlo showing up drunk. They're talking about how many times Tyson Fury masturbates before leading up to the fight. It's just a ridiculous news cycle when you have 2 of the greatest fighters of our era about to fight each other in a rubber match. And they're both about to go off into the sunset. And look, Chocolatito to me was clearly the fighter of the decade in the 2010s. Clearly. He fought 26 times. He had 20 knockouts. He did it winning titles in 4 different weight classes. right? He had more knockouts than these other fighters had fights in the decade. He was dominating. His only loss was to Sorang Vise. 2 losses, 1 disputed, 1 knockout. But that was the guy who got the best of him. And Gallo Estrada's not far behind him. He fought 31 times in that decade. And he wasn't even mentioned for fighter of the decade. He wasn't even in the running. 31 times. Multiple different weight classes. Multiple knockouts. And his only losses were, he had 3 losses, but 2 of them were Sorang Vise and Chocolatito, a majority decision and a close unanimous decision losses to great fighters, future Hall of Famers. So when I see these guys overlooked, it hurts my heart as a boxing fan. And Chocolatito, to me, one of the best fighters of our era. And Leo loved this. I'm going to throw out CompuBox numbers. He's top 10 in 7 different CompuBox categories. And to me, one of the most amazing is I think he's throwing close to 70% of his punches, somewhere around there, are power shots. So he's throwing power shots, and well-played power shots. His placement is beautiful, and he's doing it with power shots. He's an entertaining fighter, but it's also high technical. And Gallo Estrada's not far behind him. He's top 10 in 5 different statistical categories. So I love the lower weight classes because it resembles more of a sport than the middleweight classes, higher weight classes, where it resembles more of a business where guys are pampered. And when I see 2 guys who are some of the best of this era going into a rubber match, we need to be paying more of attention to it. Now, as far as will this be the most entertaining fight? I tend to think it will, with diminished reflexes, will give us more entertainment. But I was wrong about that with Canelo and Golovkin. I thought it was going to be the most entertaining fight of the trilogy, and it was not. I was dead wrong on that. So I don't know. But it's going to be another close fight, entertaining. And I agree with Dakota, and I talked about this on my podcast yesterday, is Gallo Estrada fights to the level of his competition. Do not read too much into his fight from September. He fought down, and not only that, he had a lot of ring rust. He was coming off of a long layoff, the longest of his career, I believe. So the Gallo Estrada who showed up in September is not the Gallo Estrada that will show up for his biggest adversary. That's not the guy that will show up on Saturday. He's going to fight up to Chocolatito's level, but guess what, D-Style? He will lose. He is not Chocolatito. Gallo Estrada, great fighter, first ballot Hall of Famer. I'd vote for him right away, but he is not Chocolatito. There is only one Chocolatito, arguably the greatest fighter of this era.
We're gonna make some s'mores on Saturday, bro. It's like the little chocolatitos. Tell them to make some s'mores on Saturday. That's what's gonna happen. He's not a worthy adversary. He will be the conqueror on Saturday. That's what he will.
Wow. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Now, what I love about these 2 fighters too is if you watch it, and Lee's gonna like this too. Now, these 2 guys broke CompuBox for their second fight. They threw a combined over 2,500 punches. Chocolatito threw over 1,300, and Gallo Estrada threw over 1,200. And they both averaged over 100 punches per round throughout 12 rounds. It was amazing, incredible. And they're doing it with, this isn't rock'em sock'em robots. This is high skill level at the same time. And they're keeping their hands free. That's what I love about it. But the reason I think Chocolatito is going to win the fight is that was Gallo Estrada's highest output of his career. And I still didn't think he won the fight. I don't think he can match that output in this fight. I don't think he can. I know Chocolatito can because he threw 1,315 punches, and that wasn't even his highest output. It wasn't. I know what Chocolatito I'm going to get. I don't think Gallo Estrada can throw 1,200 punches again. I don't think so.
It's a wrap, bro.
You're going to lose, D-Style.
It's a wrap. We're going to make s'mores on Saturday.
This wasn't the hill to die on, D-Style. It wasn't the hill to die on. You could have said Gallo Estrada is a great fighter, worthy adversary, but he's going to lose a better fighter. You could have said that, but you chose this hill to die on.
In this life, there's a beginning and an end. This is the end of Chocolatito's run. It was a great run.
Oh well, man. I don't know. It's gonna be a good one. I think Estrada's gonna pull it off, though. I think he's the bigger guy. I think he's fought at the weight a little bit longer. I think he's a little bit younger. I think he's got less miles on him, and he's usually been the aggressor. And I think if he fights the way he fought, even in the first two fights, I think he can pull it off. I think Gonzalez is kind of slipping a little bit. I think that he's got miles on him, and I don't think he's as durable as he once was. So I think Gallo's going to pull this one out. I think he'll probably win 8-4. I think it'll go the distance, but it'll be interesting. I said this was the last topic, but I forgot. Fury-Chisora 3, the other trilogy that no one's really crazy about. It's pretty easy to forget about this. So how are they going to sell this fight? There's no buzz for it. I mean, is this fight gonna live up to the hype of it, or is it just gonna kind of fly under the radar? We'll start with you, D-Style.
I mean, Chisora's sitting there like at a I guess press conference, whatever you want to call it, a scrum. Like, people want me to talk bad about this man. He called me and he told me, I'm going to give you a big payday, and well, he's feeding my family, and like, we all get that yes, fighters help each other out. Basically, they're like business partners when they fight. They're making money. Like, we get that, but it's not how you promote a fight. Like, oh, this guy, he's getting me paid, so I can't say anything bad about him. Like, yeah, you can. You could say anything you want about him, actually. Because you were conveniently there for him, so you're doing him a favor too. Like you're providing him with a tune-up that he desperately needed, I guess. So it's not like you don't provide value for him. Look, when he says he's going to live up, I don't have very high expectations. So I'm not expecting anything other than a beatdown. Is what I'm expecting. Like that is. We've seen this play out twice already. The second time was so embarrassing for Chisora that it was stopped, and Fury looked like he was just playing with his food out there. And now, like, what are we going to get different? Because Fury has this obsession with I don't know where universe he comes from, but where he's going to be in two trilogies that no heavyweight has done, even though they have Holyfield, Ali being two of them. So like, I just don't get what all this is about. So I don't have high expectations for the fight. I don't even know I'm going to watch the fight, to be honest with you. I'm probably going to be doing some other shit Saturday afternoon because I already know what's going to happen in this fight. I might drop my post-fight video tomorrow about this fight. Like, I already know what's going to happen. Like, I might as well just throw it out there. The only reason I'm okay with this is because I have high hopes that the Usyk fight happens next year. That's it. That's the only reason I'm like, okay, whatever. That's all I got.
Calix, what are your thoughts on this, man?
No, I don't care about it. He's a 20-1 favorite. He should win it easy, and this shouldn't have happened. This trilogy should happen. Now, if he would have sold it as a tune-up, I'm fine with it, right? But he's trying to sell it not as a tune-up. He's trying to sell it like, and for the love of God, can he please stop saying it? Can somebody please push back on him when he says he's the only heavyweight champion to fight in two trilogies? Because he's not. He's not. Like, he's literally not. And nobody's pushing back on it. He's literally not the only heavyweight champion to fight in two trilogies. He's not. And I hate that he's trying to sell this as something it's not. But at the same time, we say that this fight's flying under the radar, but it's not. It's still going to sell out. From what I'm hearing, from what I'm reading, it's still going to sell out. I still think it's going to do some buys over there. It may not move the needle over here. I don't know. I'll be doing other on Saturday afternoon. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not interested in it. But I do think there's a level of curiosity from people out there across the pond for this fight. And when it comes to Tyson Fury, and he's selling a lot of tickets, he is. his 2 fights this year, he sold what 154,000 tickets. They said
tickets,
right. So, and he's going to continue to use Anthony Joshua's name, and he's going to continue to throw out controversial comments like he's not going to fight for the IBF if Usyk fights him, and he's not going to fight for undisputed. So that's Tyson Fury. Unfortunately, that's the news cycle when it comes to a Tyson Fury fight. But I think this fight will have a level of curiosity to it for a lot of people. It will sell out. It will do well across the pond. But for me, it's not my thing. It's just not my cup of tea.
Really quick, I think the fact that if they are selling on Wembley again with Chisora, right, and he did it with White, I think, and we get this a lot from our friends across the pond. Oh, that wasn't him. That was White. Oh, that was okay. When White fought Chisora, they didn't fight in the stadium. So like, even though I don't like this fight, you gotta give Fury credit for being a draw over there. Like, I think the time to pretend that he's not a draw and that, oh, there's not real tickets and like whatever you want to say, it's not a real sellout. Or I think it's time to just admit that the guy is a draw over there. Like, I just want to throw it out there.
Yep,
I got you, man. Lee, I mean, how do we get up for a fight like this? The fight that we know the outcome.
Well, I guess we as boxing fans have to deal with this a lot. You know, we do have a lot of world title fights in which supposedly the A-side fighter is the A-side fighter clearly, and the B-side fighter is the B-side fighter very clearly. That's the case here. Third time that they fought back in 2011, Chisora was out of shape, and Fury scored a unanimous decision over him. In the rematch in 2014, Chisora was in better shape, and he ended up quitting on his stool between rounds 10 and 11. So it's pretty clear, based on the history, that Tyson Fury, if he's up, and if he's on his game, and he probably should be, given what could happen in like the next year or something, legacy fights will be coming. This is his prep fight. And, you know, that's probably how it's going to turn out. The way they sell it is that Chisora is now, you know, he's turned from the bad boy of boxing into sort of an elder statesman of British boxing. He calls himself War because he brings his best every time that he gets into the ring, at least recently. He won a split decision over Kubrat Pulev. I thought that he deserved that split decision win. I thought his body attack was very, very good. And if he's going to beat Fury, that's what he's going to have to do. He has to get inside and bang that ample body of Tyson Fury and stay on the inside. Do not try to box with this man. You've got to get inside, go into the trenches, and stay there as long as you can. But it's also kind of a compromise fight because, remember, Fury very publicly wanted to court a fight with AJ immediately after AJ lost to Usyk. And we all went through that odyssey. Of course, that fell through. And during that odyssey, the name Manuel Charr came up. And boy, when his name came up, the boxing world let out a collective fart that could shake the world, right? And then when the Charr fight did not happen and you got Chisora, you're saying, well, we didn't get AJ, but we're not getting Charr either. So it's sort of in the middle. Without all that rigmarole, Fury versus Charr would be seen as a good domestic level attraction in the UK. We know who's going to win, but it's sellable. But with all this baggage that preceded it, that's why there's no buzz, because we're disappointed. And I do think that Chisora is going to give his best because this is his last best chance to become a heavyweight champion. And here's a stat for you. If Chisora pulls off the miracle, he will be the first fighter with double-digit losses to win a heavyweight championship since Jersey Joe Walcott, who had 18 losses going into his third fight with Ezra Charles, scored the 7th round knockout in July 1951 to become heavyweight champion of the world. He'll be the first in over 70 years with double-digit losses and become a heavyweight champion of the world. So that's what Chisora is shooting for. But the history says that Tyson Fury is probably going to box him for a few rounds. He's going to find the opening for the uppercut or whatever punch is going to knock Chisora out. Probably be between rounds 6 and 10. Chisora will give his best, but it's not going to be good enough, especially when Fury knows that after this are the legacy fights. And he wants to collect those checks for those legacy fights. That's what's going to motivate him. And I think he'll do the job.
What do you think, Dakota? What do you think of this matchup?
I think he's going to wind up getting hit with an uppercut because he uses that Joe Frazier cross-arm defense. So he's always kind of leaning into it. I remember Dillian Whyte knocked him out with an uppercut, I think in the second fight. I don't really get why this fight is happening. I don't understand what Tyson Fury's been doing for the last 8 months. There's a lot of fights he talks about that don't get made. There's a lot of fights that we as fans would like to see him in, and none of those get made. And now it's another instance of nobody was asking for this. So, I mean, I'll probably watch it at some point, but this is not one you go out of your way for because who they make this fight for?
The UK, I guess the UK. I don't know. I guess the UK fans want. I don't know. I don't know who this fight's for. Really, to be honest with you.
That's what I'm saying. I haven't even heard UK fans that are really excited about this. Chisora's got a legitimate chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to sell out. But here's the thing, Beeb, is the reason I think the Usyk fight's going to happen in the spring, that it will happen, is if we follow trends with Fury, there's a clear trend. Before the Wilder fight, he fought 2 quick tune-ups and then fought Wilder he fought 3 times in 6-7 months in that span. And then he did it again before the second Wilder fight. He fought 2 quick tune-ups and then went right back to Wilder back-to-back. So whenever there seems to be a trend with him, when he wants to fight a big fight, when he knows in his mind that fight is coming, he tries to get in a couple quick tune-ups and stay really, really active before he does it. So that seems to tell me that something's going to happen in the spring. I'm assuming it's going to be Usyk, if not somebody else big, possibly an Anthony Joshua, but I think it's going to be Usyk. But when he gets super like that, and even just fighting in April and now in December, that seems to be active for Fury. The big fight's coming right behind that. And if you would have just sold this as a tune-up, I'd be okay with it, but I don't know.
Look, man, the good thing is that Jermall will be challenging Fury after the fight for undisputed. So,
yeah. All right, guys, that's about it, man. I want to thank everyone in the chat for joining us. I want to thank the panel. It was a great.
I hope Fury gets knocked out.
Chocolatito.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen, but yeah, the Chocolatito fight should be a good one. All right, guys, man, take care, everyone. Be good.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Thanks,
All right,
man.
man.